Hello and welcome back to the Star Family Wisdom podcast. I'm Jenna Layden, the founder of Star Family Wisdom and your host. I'm also a former global vice president for Whole Foods Market. And Star Family Wisdom is a paradigm shifting podcast, community, and modern day mystery school for your spiritual and cosmic evolution. Here we have conversations about all aspects of transformation, the miraculous, the supernatural, what's possible, ET contact, the transformation that's happening on Earth, you name it. There's a lot going on these days. So we're all about supporting you in becoming the healed, transformed version of yourself that you can be. And this podcast started as really my journey of personal exploration and sharing, what I was finding, what I was learning. I used to be an atheist, for those who don't know my journey well, and I was really closed off to any aspect of spirituality or my soul for a long time. For the first part of my mission on Earth, I was a leader for many years and was very dedicated to that, took a lot of my time, and I didn't really have a lot of time to explore myself and our reality. But then around the age of 30, I went through a dark night of the soul. I had a major relationship end that was so intense energetically that it made me question everything about my reality. And today, I want to talk about negative attachments, what those are, how we heal them. And I'm sharing this little bit of my background as some context because this moment where this relationship ended and I went into this dark night of the soul where I was questioning everything was so energetically intense that it made me wonder, like, how was I connected to this person, like in another life? Once I had gotten clear on the fact that I was a soul in this body, and this soul, had, more wisdom, insight, skills, talents that I just hadn't really clued into for a long time or been that aware of. I started to question, okay, well, what has my soul done in other lives? I had a long list of questions for the universe. And one of those questions was about this relationship I had with this other person. And I'd also been married before too. So that's some context around why I was so curious about this breakup and this intensity I was feeling, because it was just unlike anything I'd ever experienced before. And so all of a sudden I'm asking these questions, and I get a spontaneous past life flashback that happens in meditation that tells me about an attachment, a karmic attachment I had with this person. And that's why there was such intensity emotionally, energetically, in what we were experiencing during that time. So, we develop attachments, and we've got an interesting situation because of the current, time on Earth. We're at the end of an era. We're at the end of a very long cycle. So we are just now coming out of our dark ages. And when that occurs, we're cleaning up a lot of karma. And so you can think of negative attachments as karma also. And some of our, negative karma are these negative attachments we have, either to people, to certain ideas around what we think will make us feel safe or secure, around things we think we can't live without, around certain belief systems. And all of these negative attachments have developed over the course of many lifetimes. Some of them happen within one lifetime, and we get an opportunity to address those and free ourselves from those. But a lot of them are, the culmination of many lifetimes, and we're also experiencing the culmination of all of the gifts and talents and skills and wisdom we've developed over those lifetimes. So we have all of this, positive that we can tap into as well. But we also need to address those negative attachments. And, one thing I've gotten really passionate about at Star Family Wisdom is this idea of becoming the new human. Who's the new human? The new human is someone without negative attachments. The new human is someone who has advanced through levels of initiation and spiritual practice to restore their energy field to a place of divine harmony, to bring divine order to the field around them. A human who is now aging differently and looking younger as they age, a human who maybe dies consciously and chooses when they leave their body at an old age. These are the possibilities of where we can go as a species and where I think we've once been before we devolved during this time cycle we go through, which is not the focus of our episode here. But this, idea of releasing ourselves from what has really kept us in a prison of our own making, which has kept us in suffering, which has resulted in negative or less desirable relationship dynamics, is something we've got to focus on to become the people that are going to transform this world. So when we are coming into this life, we're coming in with a lot of baggage for the most part. Most of us are. And the biggest work we can do is identifying that. And I want to share a recent example of releasing a negative attachment. And I'll share some more examples of what those are. And we'll talk about this example from my life and a relationship dynamic that was playing out that I had to address. And when we break these negative attachments, clear negative karma, it's not always easy. It's uncomfortable, and we've got to sit with that discomfort for a minute before it clears. So we often find ourselves not breaking those negative attachments because it's uncomfortable, right? We resist the discomfort. We resist those moments of discomfort, a day of discomfort, a week of discomfort, whatever it is, when we could actually be experiencing that discomfort in the short term to experience long-term peace and harmony. And here's a little funny example. This last weekend, I'd done some major body work, had gotten a massage because I've been doing so much energy shifting this year. And when we go through major energy shifts and clearing negative attachments and all of that, our physical body is shifting and changing. And, we store energy in our body if we're not careful. And so I had, some energy stored that I needed help, moving through the system and getting out of my body. So I did that. And then I was, thinking about my self-care and recovery process and how am I really, honoring my body right now with what I'm going through. And I remembered a thing that would be good for me that I just haven't done because I had an attachment to comfort. And that thing was an ice bath. So you might have heard about like cold therapy and ice baths and cryotherapy. There's lots of good research about it. And the idea behind it is that, when we expose our body to cold, our mitochondria can actually reproduce. It can it can heal. We can generate more of it. I think it's heat that helps heal our mitochondria. The cold helps us generate more of it, which we want if we're going to stay youthful and experience longevity. So I've known about this, for like years now, and I still had not done a cold bath because I was resistant to the discomfort. And the irony is that I've gone really far in my work focusing on mind over matter, focusing on what's possible, focusing on the way consciousness can affect our reality and heal our bodies and all of that. I've gone really far in that work, and this was one thing I was like still completely resisting. So I decided, okay, this is going to be my day to get over that hump of the resistance. I'm going to clear that attachment to the comfort I've desired, and I'm going to reaffirm for myself that the momentary discomfort is worth it. And I'm going to do the work to put mind over matter and have an easeful experience and not feel that much discomfort. That was my goal. And so, but this took me, like a day to work, or years actually. It took years, and then this day to like actually do it. So I did it, and it was fine. And I, did some, practices ahead of time to get my mindset in the right place, to allow my body to not feel much cold when I went in the ice bath. And that happened. I was able to kind of stave off some of the like sharpness of that cold sensation, and I was able to help my body just know it's just a sensation. Like it doesn't hurt. I'm not in danger. I'm not being harmed. This is just a sensation, and I'm just going to sit with it for a minute. I probably could have gone longer. I'm going to do longer next time, but I did it. That's the important part. So I share that as another funny example, of these little attachments we develop and our resistance to the discomfort of breaking those. A more significant one recently was a relationship dynamic. And we've all heard about codependency and these trauma patterns that play out in relationships, codependency being one of the biggest trauma patterns that plays out. When we don't feel safe within ourselves, when we have major insecurities and unworthiness issues, it becomes very easy to develop a codependency on someone else to bring us that sense of safety or security or whatever it is that we're missing inside of ourselves. So, it became clear to me not long ago with a particular family relationship dynamic that there was some codependency that had developed because I was traveling to be with a family member and be part of some different experiences. And for the most part, this didn't necessarily really feel like my soul's path, my soul's journey with what we were doing, but it was to be supportive of this other person, which is important. I think no matter what's going on in our family and our relationships, we should do our best to be supportive, be helpful, be there for other people with the proper boundaries, which I'm about to talk about. So, we can also slip into that pattern of giving too much of ourselves and taking ourselves off of our soul's path, off of what is good for us for other people. So that's a tricky balance to achieve. And it takes a lot of practice to achieve that balance. And so all of a sudden, I found myself post India having gone through these major energetic experiences. I'm having major energy shifts happening that I need to honor and allow to unfold. And all of a sudden I'm finding myself in this family situation where there was a negative attachment with a person. Like this person had developed a codependency related to me that I could feel it energetically at this point, in my journey, that this was not just a reciprocal, mutual, shared kind of experience of wanting to be there and do all these things together. This was more this person really needing me to be there so they could do what they needed to do for their soul's journey. I'm sure you can relate to that, right? Like there's there's a lot of those situations we find ourselves in where we're not honoring really what is meant for us because we're too worried about making sure that other person is going to get their needs met. And so during this experience, I also got sick. Like I caught a cold with all the travel, and I'm like having this major integration process occurring, and it's becoming clear that like that's feeling a little uncomfortable for this other person, because it would be better for them if I was just really there for them in this experience completely. And so I was feeling all this like pretty heavily and like sitting with it, and realizing that, and this is, some of the shamanic energy medicine training I'm leaning on here, that there was a particular physical issue I was carrying that was attached to this negative attachment, to this karma with this person. And if I allowed this attachment to stay in place, if I allowed this pattern to continue to play out, I would not physically heal in the way I needed to. And so I sat in meditation one morning and I realized what I needed to do. I needed to extract myself from the situation and leave, to focus on myself, to allow myself to integrate, heal, get my needs met. And I knew as soon as I articulated that need to this other person, that was going to be extremely uncomfortable for both of us. And I knew walking into this conversation that it was going to result in a trigger for this person. So I knowingly went into this conversation to trigger that person. And again, not in like a malicious way, but in a way where I knew this had to happen. Like I knew I had to do this. I had to say, I'm leaving. Sorry, but I need to go. I need to go take care of myself. And I made an attempt. I'm here. I'm doing it. I'm here for you, but I need to go take care of myself now. And so I had that conversation, and yeah, it was uncomfortable. It was not easy, and it resulted in a few days of experiencing discomfort and experiencing kind of a resurgence of a lot of emotions I had suppressed related to this negative attachment that I just hadn't really seen, and I just hadn't really allowed myself to address for a long time. And so over the next few days after this decision was made, and I could feel when the energetic attachment broke by making this decision and leaving. And then that was the healing process that then resulted in both of us feeling emotions that had been suppressed related to this dynamic, and needing to release those and express those. And the beautiful thing is that, once we were on the other side of that, once, that week of discomfort had passed and that releasing had occurred, what had been suppressed related to that attachment and that karma had kind of risen to the surface and gotten sloughed off. Wow, like the level of harmony and love that's like being experienced in this relationship is on a whole new level. And by consciously triggering this person in a polite, loving way, of course, by consciously triggering this person, it allowed that person to meet that moment and work through their feelings about that, and then rise to the occasion, right? Because this negative attachment was around me kind of needing to be there for them to feel good about doing all the stuff they wanted to do, with these other people. But it gave this person the opportunity to just step up and do that and be independent and see that it all went really well, and actually see that there were some things that played out that worked out kind of better, that I wasn't there. So it all played out just the way it was supposed to, but it was really uncomfortable at first. It was really uncomfortable to make that decision, make the change, sit with that, face that together, like it's one of those moments of, saying like, I love you, but I love me, and I'm going to honor me now. And so we develop all sorts of negative attachments, and that's an example of a relational one that develops. And we develop it with food. We develop these negative attachments with, again, these ideas of what we think we should be doing with our time, or with what we need to have physically or materially, right? So like, even just sitting down and making a list of, like, if you had to release certain things, certain people, certain beliefs, certain ways of being, certain foods you eat, like if you had to release all of that, how would that feel? Like, could you do it? And that's going to like tell you how many attachments you have. and and the path of initiation, the path of spiritual evolution ultimately is about releasing those in the right time, in the right way, and finding that balance between non-attachment and connection, right? So one of my favorite affirmations right now, as I've been in this intensive journey over the last few years of releasing, negative attachments and karma, is I am connected to everything and attached to nothing. Right? Like, that's the state we want to be in. We want to be intimately connected with the universe, with our source, with our higher self, with our non-physical team, with the world around us, with our loved ones. We want to feel that connection. We want to experience all that can form in the physical as a result of those connections. And we don't want to attach ourselves to any of it, because the paradox is, that when we get attached, like overly attached, that starts to create suffering in our lives, and that prevents us from reaching these new levels of consciousness and creation. And again, it's like the paradox of what you really need, what you are really attached to, you might not receive, if you're trying to manifest it. So there's also, that process of creation and manifestation in which non-attachment is so critical. And it helps us with any of the manifestations or creations that we're focused on if we are unattached to most of the things in our life. Like, that's kind of like the magical formula there. But again, that's like the tricky balance of being involved, being interested, being curious about life, engaging with life, taking action in life, but doing it from a somewhat detached place. And so, when we think about the attachments that we have, we can also think about, like, where in our body do we feel energy? So if you think about a relationship dynamic, or a thing you feel like you really need, or even something you've got resistance to, we can also like tune into the body to see, where's that energy living, like where do we need to focus in like a holistic sense to move that energy. So when I went through this big process recently of the clearing this, attachment, but then with a lot of the other ones too that I've focused on over the last few years, it's been on all levels, right? It's been energetically identifying where that energy is living in my chakra system, kicking that energy out of the system, right? Like doing the energy clearing work to get to the root cause of that attachment and clearing that, and then bringing in divine energy to plug that hole, for lack of a better term, to repair the energy field, to bring light to it, to bring higher vibrational light codes, higher vibrational expressions of what's possible for our soul, to bring more of our soul's energy back into our energy field. Because every negative attachment or negative karma that we have is blocking us from activating some aspect of our soul's power. So we clear out that negative energy, we bring in our soul's power, the higher energy. Then we also identify, where has that energy been living in the body? Like what part of the body is that connected to, and how can I flow energy through that part of the body to release any stuck energy? And then we're also working, at the level of the mind, because the mind controls energy. So, we live in a mental universe. We live in a universe that is conscious, and consciousness is going to affect, physical reality, and our thoughts affect our energy field. Our thoughts affect our body. So as we're focused on clearing these karmas and negative attachments, we've also got to be reframing the story around those negative attachments in our mind. Like we have to be reaffirming for ourselves, rewriting the story around what this new dynamic is, right? Letting go of the past, just releasing that old story of I needed this because of this, I needed X because of Y, and rewriting that to I don't need X because Y. We can start to create a new story for ourselves, a new truth. And this is what affirmations are about. It's about programming our minds with new truths that are going to help us operate at a higher level and are going to help us prevent those attachments from reforming, reattaching. So we've got to address it, from all angles. And then we have to take aligned action, like I did in this example where, I was feeling it in my body. I was feeling it, on so many levels. And I knew that the only way that this would shift and clear on all of these levels is if I took this particular action and then allowed the rest of the shifting, the reprogramming, the reframing of the story, the rewriting of the story around this relationship dynamic to take place. So we've got to have a combination of all of those things involved in the clearing process of negative attachments. And then we're going to get tested again. we're going to get an opportunity from the universe to practice the new story, to practice the non-attachment, to practice standing in our truth, standing in our center, being poised, being confident, being unattached, right? We're going to get an opportunity that circles around for us to practice that and demonstrate this new level of being, which sometimes is also a little uncomfortable at the time because it's pushing on that part of yourself that's building a new muscle, right? So you can think of this as like building new muscles. And so that momentary discomfort of practicing the new relationship dynamic, practicing showing up differently, practicing just being in your center with yourself as this other person is expressing what they need to express, whatever that is for you, like we're going to get that opportunity to practice it again after we've done the work. So we shouldn't be surprised, if a similar situation kind of comes back around that allows us to level up. It's like the spiral of life, right? Energy moves in a spiral. And so our healing process is not totally linear. We're going to revisit similar situations. We're going to revisit similar patterns for this purpose. And until we've done the work to clear the negative attachment, that spiral is going to keep bringing us back around to that same pattern, that same dynamic, that same situation. It's just going to have a different, look to it, right? It's going to be the exact same. It's just going to be a different person this time. It's going to be the exact same. It's just going to be a different company you work for, right? Like these are the patterns we need to recognize and then be willing to take action around. So there are a lot of ways we can engage in this process of clearing negative attachments. And I invite you to check out some of the resources on the Star Family Wisdom website. They will get you started on that process. In the free shamanic practice course, you get some easy tools to work with that help you in that process of starting to clear energy and understanding about the various kind of layers of reality that we're working with in this process. In the Yeshua's ancient holy practices webinar, you can learn about my journey engaging the ancient mantra and yantra systems in India, which help us with that process of bringing in, more of our soul's power and divine energy and clearing out, the old energy. You can access downloadable guides and ebooks that give you insight into this activation process that can occur as we do this work, into ancestral healing and soul retrieval. We've got so many resources that will help you down this path. And if you really want to go all the way, check out the resources on the Yeshua's Practices page, where you can engage in some of these really ancient energetic systems that help you clear that karma and help you come back into your power. And then we also offer sacred geometry drawing, which is a really easy way to start bringing harmony to your system and start allowing some of those shifts to occur. And if you're, going down the spiritual initiation path and you're really serious about it, and you want to, engage in various techniques, check out the Isis initiation and Syrian energy activation course. This is a course that is a 7-level, 7-chakra initiation that takes you through various rituals and energy clearing practices and meditations that are designed to help you come back into connection with that power and to help you clear some of those old karmic attachments that might be in place. So there are many paths to this work, and I hope some of those resources are supportive for you. And if you are interested in learning more about Yeshua's ancient holy practices and the divine lineage, the ancient mantra and yantra systems from the Indian palm leaf manuscripts, check out the Supernatural Souls podcast. This is a second podcast where we are going to have conversations really centered just around that and around the masters and talking about their lives, their teachings, and learning from all of the people who've been on this path for years and who've engaged these practices. And that'll be just a really dedicated, sacred space where we can have those sorts of conversations. So I hope this was a helpful conversation, and by me sharing, some of my recent experiences, it helps you take that step to address a negative attachment in your life. If you have one takeaway, I think that's it, is to identify where do you have an attachment you can let go of and start to do that work around. And, as we take the first step and clear the first one, the second one gets a little easier, then the third one gets a little easier. It's never going to be totally easy. The game of life is designed to challenge us. That's part of the plan, I think. But just like with anything, when we're building new muscles, when we're practicing new things, it's like practice over and over builds that muscle and makes it just a little easier. So I hope you get yourself out of your comfort zone sometime soon and find something that is going to push you a little further than you thought you could, I hope you address, something that is a negative attachment in your life and just, get bold and fearless about dealing with that. And know that like your soul is going to reap the rewards, right? It's like as a human, we we get into this pattern of wanting instant gratification, right? It's like we want to see the instant manifestation of our work. We want to see, you know, instant, comfort from something we do. And the path of spiritual evolution is not about that. It is about the long term benefit and the long term evolution and reward for our soul and some of those moments of discomfort that help us get there. So I hope you are having an awesome week, and check out the links below for those resources, and subscribe if you're not subscribed yet so you don't miss any of our videos, and head over to the Supernatural Souls podcast on YouTube or wherever you watch your podcasts and subscribe to that one too so that you can check out that content as it comes out. It was wonderful to be with you today, and I am holding intentions for your highest healing and for you to release all of those attachments. I'll see you next time in our next episode. Bye for now.